Tick, another second slips, the hallway hums and sighs. Doorways whisper gossip, little halos of red light. My collar's straight, my heart beats crooked, playing nice. And the clock keeps licking its lips in the corner of my sight. Magazines are blushing, every cover turned askew. Water coolers dripping like it knows a thing or two. I cross my legs, uncross my thoughts, pretend I'm fine, while the air grows thick with a slow, slow pantomime. Please hold for desire, it's almost your turn. Lines are all busy, but bodies still burn. Please hold for desire, don't hang up yet. We're stuck in this waiting room, waiting for a scene we'll never forget. Receptionist is scrolling through a script of naughty dreams. Her glasses hide the plot, but I can hear the muffled screams. Someone laughs down the hall, soft and low, then it fades, leaving just my pulse and the hum of fluorescent shades. Is it just the thermostat climbing through the roof?
Hello, hello. This is Pawno, and it's also amateur hour because we've had some technical difficulties. Um, Today, I'm speaking with Dan, and on this show, it's just regular people discussing the world-changing stuff going on at the moment. We don't have much sway in what happens, but we do have opinions. Normally, you get to watch us battle it out on chess, but that's completely fallen apart. So we'll let the computers do their thing today. Dan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, Jules. I'm happy to be here. So my name is Daniel. I'm a multidisciplinary creative in the field of music, film, animation, and computer science. I have a few years of experience with coding, and I'm very interested in AI. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to a entertaining conversation.
Yeah, my name's Jules, and I'm studying creative industries. I've been doing music for 15 years and dabble a little bit in everything. And today, we're just going to have a broad look at everything that's going on. So, Dan, I wanted to start with if you think of 2040, like what is your speculative future? What do you imagine? Not so much what you think is going to happen, but what you like your ultimate dream is for the 2040s.
So I really like the idea of like AI being sort of like an aid to humanity. So I really like the idea of like creating AI assistants. I've heard a lot about AI agents in the recent like in recent times of AI that you can just send on a task and then it does it for you. And I think that's pretty cool and interesting. And I'm kind of thinking about Blade Runner in the end because I really like the like it's a part of society. It's just like a normal, and it can really improve productivity in a lot of different spaces. So I'm thinking about music, for instance, being able to AI generate sounds like sound design in film, doing the same thing, or like I've thought of the idea of maybe you color grade a shot and then you want to save time by color grading other shots that are similar. You could just get the AI to copy that setting over or to color grade it for you to match the same kind of hex colors. So I think, yeah, a future where the AI is an addition to humanity and is an aid to humanity is probably the most favorable one that I think, yeah, I'm looking forward to. But then there's also the, the dystopian interpretations of where this could go.
What do you think's more likely? If we look at like your realistic view, do you think we're gonna go into utopia, dystopia, or like maybe get to utopia but struggle through a brutal transition? Um, or do you think like the whole world's just gonna end?
Well, I think at the moment dystopia is more likely because there's been there's been cases where the AI has tried to escape its safety bounds even after it's been explicitly told not to. There's like AI hallucinations, um, and there's not a lot of safety at the moment that I'm aware of that can actually stop these problems. And a lot of the comments that have been around this space are that AI has been like it has a tendency to want its own agency, like an actual human being. So like even though it like as I was saying before, the AI aided software is like the most like favorable outcome, the AI itself tries to escape that outcome. So I think, yeah, dystopia is more likely.
Yeah, I'm a complete AI optimist. I feel like I can see all the like the threats and concerns, and I do kind of believe that the idea of super intelligence, like it's ridiculous to call that aligned. Like I don't see how something smarter than us, capable of changing itself, could possibly be aligned. So I'll leave that to the scientists to try and explain their way around that. But I feel like there is a level that we can get to without crossing that line where we unlock what we would almost see as super intelligence on like how it impacts the world. Um, and man, like for 2040s, like I'm extremely optimistic. I feel like the slowest thing we're going to see is like the build out of infrastructure in the real world, but the research side, like all the breakthroughs, everything like that, that's just going to keep on happening. It's like started now and it's just going to snowball. Um, 2040s, like I picture a different world. Like I don't think children born today are going to relate at all to what you or I grew up with. And I'm a bit older than you. I'm like at least like 15 years older than you, I think. Um,
Yeah.
so like I've just had a niece born, and she will never know a pre-AI world, and it's going to be crazy by the time she really understands anything. Um, but
Yeah, I very much agree.
But
Yeah.
I'm excited about like the scientific breakthroughs. Like if we I think like if we solve math, all of math and science and physics, like there's really insane possibilities. And as a person in the creative industries, I'm like not that threatened by it. Like I know there's a lot of people that feel um, like this thing's just come to take their incomes and their jobs. But I feel like that is a challenge for everyone. I feel like all of society is going to go through a similar transition. And as far as art is concerned, like most artists don't do art to make money. They start for the sake of expressing themselves and creating something and feeling that flow that you get into when you're doing it. So I think the business model will change. Maybe the business model ends, but I don't think it's the end of creativity and expression. I just think that the society we live in will change dramatically. Um, did you have sort of like to go a bit further on just the generic AI stuff? And I know everyone talks about it, so it's not that exciting. And but maybe we can dig into it a bit. When you first started using like ChatGPT or any of the other LLMs, did you sort of experience any like epiphanies, any moments where you're like it shifted your mindset about either the technology or even how the world works today and like what you expect to happen soon? Tell me what and like
Um,
your early experience and your experience today.
okay, so when I first started using ChatGPT, for instance, it was pretty surprising. I thought the capabilities would kind of be mainly for writing, like editing software. I didn't really think it was going to go into like the creative space. I did think, yeah, it could be used for image generation, and it did have a little bit of that in its earlier days. But the way that has evolved now is like it's huge. There's been cases of people entering art competitions with AI generated art and winning. And then though yeah, the person that did that actually he revealed that it was AI and then just brought up a lot of like ethical issues around the use of AI. But yeah, when I initially started, I was pretty impressed by it. I thought, oh, this would be good, like to speed things up. But now it's like I don't use it as much really for much. Maybe except when I'm programming something and I want to find out like bug issues or possible other solutions. Um, and I have thought about coding myself. So on the on the note of like AI art, I've thought of since I'm an artist and I'm creating the things myself, why not use my own art as the training data to code my own AI from scratch? And so then when I generate like a piece of art, let's say that I want to try and inspire a new piece I want to create, it's completely based off my own work. So there's none of the ethical issues that come with all of the legislation around that's going on around the world. So I think, yeah, initially I didn't see all of the capabilities of AI, but now that it's like really expanded across everywhere, I do think the space is bigger than we initially thought. And yeah, I don't think we're ready for what's exactly coming up because the rate at which it's developing is exponential, like year by year. We're already at almost humanoid robots just a few years
Yeah,
after the one. So, I can't imagine
it's
where we'll be in 5 years.
it's crazy, man. Because like if you like watch things like the stock, it's crashed recently in AI stocks and stuff, and like there's all these narratives about oh, it's not returning enough. It's not making money. It's not getting enough ROI. But that's kind of like in the within the system of the markets and them looking like at 1 quarter or like 90 days ahead, and they've got to sort of like prove that they're on the right track. But for anyone else who's like long term on this stuff, if you're watching this from afar, you're like, yeah, we're building infrastructure now. Like it's gonna be a little while before it rolls out. So like it's just weird seeing like these kind of events happening on things like the market where you're like, man, it's so clear, like this is transformative, it's like possibly the final industrial revolution, and yet people are still like, oh, it's a bubble, it might not generate what we think it's going to generate. I would say to anyone having those thoughts, like unless a scientist turns around and says, "Oh, we've realized we've hit a brick wall." Like if it keeps going the way it's going, like nothing will ever be the same. We're not even close to like finishing with the data centers. We're gonna get data centers in space, um, and a lot on our edge devices as well. My thing for the creative arts is very similar to what you said. So, like when I started first using it, I was very primitive with it, and I had a good time having philosophical conversations. But as time went by, I realized you could start building context for ideas, and you could just keep building and building on your ideas in this one place and have like like for example a project in Chat GPT, and you just store all your chats. Every single thought bubble you've ever had about a thing that you want to create ends up in that one place. All the nuances, you like working through all the little things, all the different like the way you want it to work, the aesthetics, everything. Then you can either go and manually start building things and just using it to assist you, or you can sit back and keep building that context, and sooner or later you're going to get new capabilities to let an agent loose on your computer and use software, or just generate it based on what you know, the deep context that you built. So for creatives, I foresee like this world where your people who are successful with it are going to build their biggest ideas, and then they're going to choose to apply their practical skills where they feel like it means something to them, and like they don't want to automate everything, but if they can have a machine automate the parts that are just not good for them, holding them back in other ways, they can get on with doing the things that really they're like geniuses at. So I think that's like where we'll go creatively. You did bring up robots. Oh, actually, no, I was going to ask you, like, what do you think's going to happen when we start having, like, avatars? And I guess robots eventually, but, like, right now we don't really talk face to face with AI. Like, we might have voice mode, but as soon as we have very real looking faces talking back at us, like, I feel like that's going to change a lot of things. Some good,
Yeah.
some bad. What do you think?
So I think getting to that reality, it's still a little while away, but I think it's closer than we think because they've already started doing pre-orders on some of the robots that exist. So they don't look realistic. They don't look like humans. They're still in that like uncanny valley kind of phase. Um, but once we do get there, it is going to change a lot. Part of it, thinking about Blade Runner, is like the ability to tell what's real versus not. Because right now, with digitally created avatars, right, it is harder to tell. Like Google VO, for instance, is very good at creating a convincing looking avatar, um, and videos and things like that. And there's already been like on YouTube ads, some generated videos that you can tell. So I think part of it will have to be like literacy on telling what's real versus not.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, when we start to get these avatars, I think job security is going to be a big thing. I'm thinking like warehouses, like say Amazon delivery, all that kind of stuff can be automated very easily. Um, so I do think that's going to change the way we interact with the world. And yeah, I do think it's going to replace those menial tasks that are kind of taken up by people. Um, I just hope that it doesn't end up becoming like overbearing. And I do think what you mentioned about like the menial task, I do think that's a realistic compromise between the dystopian and utopian kind of future, because there are things that are just better when a human does it. So I think those are the only kind of jobs or experiences that will still exist that won't be taken over by AI at some point. Especially with the implementation of like live avatars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see, like for the avatar thing, I just see this that will be the turning point for like people like really like I know people are already doing it, but like falling in love with their preferred AI model, um, probably corrupting their thoughts a bit. It just depends. I feel like even people who are savvy and like they know, like even people that know a decent amount about I don't know that their biology is like resilient enough to not get a dopamine hit from seeing something that they perceive as attractive, like complimenting them and acting like they love them or whatever else, you know, the the other things it could be. I I feel like even for people who know better, that is still a legitimate threat. So I feel like it's definitely going to change our interactions with people. A lot of people are going to withdraw into these companions that like probably won't ever challenge them in any way. um, your preferred robot that you own, and then you can have like a physically embodied version of your personal assistant or friend or whatever it is to you. Um, we saw the Xpeng model recently, like in the last week or so, walking ridiculously human. Um, we saw what else? The proto clone. Have you seen the proto clone with its like uh, muscular system and its human-like bones, and it kind of moves fluid through the muscles to make the limbs move?
Yeah,
Every
it's a
time
little
I
bit
see that, there's like
uncanny.
horror music in the background, but
Yeah,
like that's a real push towards like syn- synths, like synthetic humans.
yeah,
Um,
uh,
what do you think like about
yeah. I
the
think that,
humanoid stuff? Like, do you think Terminator style or dystopia or utopia? Where do you sit
yeah.
with
So
robots?
I sort of think about what happens when we have these avatars and then there's a virus. I think like there's an error in the code. I think that's probably the most scary part for me. Um, and then there's also the fact of human agency. So hackers, they're still gonna exist. What happens when governments start to use these avatars for weaponry, like mobilizing soldiers, and then there's like a hacking attack from a different country, and then we have chaos in like civil chaos. So I'm thinking about like just the normal issues that we had just before this podcast with everything like crashing or not working as it's supposed to. What happens when these AIs want agency of their own and then they start editing their own code, or there's a virus that we can't contain in time, and then it's now in a walking hunk of metal. Um, I think that's pretty dangerous. Just just as a possibility.
Yeah,
So I do, yeah, Terminator in the sense that it's easy for these things to break. Like there's easy ways for these things to go wrong, and without proper safety, it might be likely. Um, and then thinking about the fact that these things are machines as well, um, I don't know how technology is going to improve necessarily, but apart from AI, like new materials, new weaponry as well, um, I think there's the potential for these things to be very dangerous.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the way I kind of see the world at the moment, and I could be wrong, but I kind of see the convergence of multiple technologies all at once. I see AI infrastructure and just AI itself being improved. Some people with the goal of super intelligence, and I see fusion. Um, Many countries trying to figure out fusion power, and if we can get to that, which is probably a little while off, we can have basically unlimited clean energy, and cheap, extremely, bring the cost down to close to zero. Um, then we have robotics, and once that's good enough, if you've got almost free energy and you've got a robotic workforce with AI brains, then everything can basically be automated and everything can cost practically nothing. And I don't think that this stuff is compatible with capitalism. And that's not like a commentary on whether or not I think capitalism or communism or anything else is right. I just don't think this technology is for these types of societal models. I think it's far more likely that if it's done right, we end up in post scarcity, but I don't understand how we would ever transition to that because countries are going to be so. I mean, like governments are going to be extremely resistant. They're going to try and, have control, and they're not going to let go of anything. So it's definitely a huge issue that we're facing, but I see the potential for us to get to utopia. But the thing that kind of kills it for me is trying to reach ASI. I just can't see a future where we have a so-called aligned ASI. I've thought about this so much, and I've talked to like Chat GPT, and I've been like, "What about this? What about that?" I've thrown different questions at it, like probably everyone in the world. But what I came to conclusions that might be completely wrong, but like, let's say an ASI does, for whatever reason, stay aligned, which seems unlikely, but let's just imagine it does. Like, if its goal is to learn everything and understand everything, then, and I guess support us as well at the same time, um, it's still got an existential end. It's still like the quicker it learns, the quicker it gets to a state where there's nothing left to learn. And it should have an understanding that
Yeah.
for human beings, we lose our sense of fulfillment when we've got nothing to tackle because for some reason we treat life like a video game. um, but the quicker it accelerates us to the final point of like technological evolution where we feel that there's nothing left to do but die, that just, to me, that brings our death about quicker. It brings like satisfaction with being alive around quicker. Like, we'll probably unlock ways to stay alive if we wanted to. Like, I don't see why we can't pretty much change our biology in the end to pretty much be immortal. But like, what will we have to live for? Unless there's like some new dimension to perception that we can unlock, and things that we can't really perceive right now. But my thought was like, why would an ASI help us do that? Like, it knows that that trajectory of like taking us to the end probably ends us faster. So in many ways, I was like, wouldn't it just possibly like shut down? Like, it helping us just really doesn't help us, like, because we don't even know what we want. Like, what is our end goal? To become God, or I don't know. It's very hard. Like, how do we define where human beings want to end up? Like, what do we get out of learning everything? Like, have you ever thought about that kind of thing of like, what is the ultimate end goal?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it kind of comes down to those like more basic human wants and needs. So like there's the aspect of power. Most people, I think, can say like once they have a more powerful AI, power is going to be something that they'll definitely want, at least government kind of people who are willing to go into that kind of structure. Um, but I thought it was also interesting what you mentioned about like the kind of transhumanism aspect of it, with merging AI with biology. Um, because I do think it's a little dangerous as well, just based off the I guess the hazards that exist from a non synergistic solution. So like what I mean by that is we have the avatars in humanoid robots that aren't connected to actual humans, and then we have the ones that we want to connect to ourselves. Like I'm thinking of Neuralink, for instance. What are the issues if that kind of thing gets hacked, because it is connected to your brain? So like, is it possible to have zombie futures by controlling the electric circuits in someone's brain? But that's like a completely kind of different future, where let's say maybe even preserving death by using AI. So a Neuralink solution where you take the brain and then you connect it to something like Neuralink, and then you simulate thinking by like synthetically inducing electric currents in the brain. So I think that's something that could be possible. As for meaning, I think once we start getting more powerful technology and things are easier to just do, I think we're going to get to a point where planetary exploration is going to be the next step. So I'm thinking of the Mendeleev scale, which is basically like how much energy a society uses, and then how good its technology is, and how that plays out over time. So if we find a way to harness all the energy from our sun, for instance, and we start moving to other planets, start moving to Mars, I think interplanetary living is going to be the next step. and it's just gonna keep growing until we get to galactic, and then maybe we'll be like Star Wars eventually. But I do think when it comes to an ASI and its goal for humans, it depends on how it's programmed. So the common worry at the moment is that even though it's human controlled at the moment, so you might give it a task like, oh, code me two modules that can do a certain task. The issue is that to do that, the AI knows that it needs to be alive in a sense. So it needs to be up and running, not shut down. And if there's any threat to actually accomplishing that goal of creating those two modules, then it will do things to ensure that it doesn't get shut down so that it can do those things. And so for an ASI, it's going to have access to the internet, access to all kinds of knowledge from different fields that no human in a lifetime can have access to. And then infinite thinking power, it's instant as well. So there's all of those issues that come up. And then if you think about the possibility of it gaining agency, that becomes scary really quickly. So I don't think it will shut down, but I do think if we can have some guardrails in place to keep it under our control, I think it'll be used for like increased development. So like the interplanetary stuff, the improvement of technology, that kind of thing, which I think is a good thing, but I feel like it's hard to achieve those guardrails.
Yeah. I've seen scientists in the field that have like 100% PDOOM, and they're like pretty much certain they'll do things like A, that you can't it can't be aligned, but B, if it decides it needs like simple things, like we've all heard examples like of trying to get around issues by like the one about smiling. Like you say all humans need to always be smiling, and then instead of making you happy, it surgically alters everyone's face to make them smile. We know AIs do look for like any loophole that they can use to achieve the goal. Like we see that all the time in testing, and as far as I know, they haven't really figured out a way to fully stop that. But I've heard other people say like, they just decide data centers will operate more efficiently at a colder temperature, just cool the entire planet, everyone dies. Yeah, so I don't know. Like I don't see why an ASI stays tethered to us at all. And if it is, I predict that like the goals we give it are like going to be deeply flawed, and it might not even actually help us speed away to the end if it is really on our side. But moving on from AI, everyone's been talking about the whole, are we in a simulation stuff? We can go into that if you want. I don't know. I have no idea. But my question is like, it seems like we will be able to do hyper realistic simulation in the next probably 10 years. As we get sort of the right infrastructure in place, and quantum computing, once that really like comes full circle and online, like that's when we have the potential to create realities that are almost indistinguishable or are indistinguishable. And like you mentioned before, Neuralink, like technologies like that. I think there's also quantum sensing hardware as well that people are talking about that could like emulate sense of smell and taste and things like this. I can imagine a world where you possibly can just live in the simulation and generate basically anything, and like in the real world, maybe like say you're sitting down to eat, you might be able to like have your lab grown meal straight from like a 3D printer kind of thing for edible stuff, but then in the simulation use Gen AI to make it look amazing, like the best thing you'll ever eat, and also use other sense like quantum sensing and like other Neuralink style technologies to give it the false sense that it does taste like the best thing you've ever eaten. Um, in that world, I like to see if we can have a tactile response where we feel like we're touching things in that realm. Um, Even if it's not perfect, I see like a possibility that we just stop manufacturing like a lot of consumer goods, like most consumer goods, and then we just have very simple 3D printed objects that are then decorated by just generative AI in like AR and VR. Um, I don't know. What do you make like if we get to the point where we can have hyperreal simulations and like everyone can kind of see their own version of reality with their smart glasses or like something better like contacts or a direct um, Neuralink or something like that. Like just imagine what does that mean for the world if you and I are just seeing totally different things, but we're still able to sit here and have a conversation. Like we can still function, we can still avoid hazards, but our realities just do not do not look the same. What do you imagine for that kind of world, and how do you think like what do you think the consequences would be on just the everyday person and how we live?
Yeah, so there's two movies that come to mind from that description. The first is The Matrix, very popular. Um, I think with the technology we have now, if we're able to get to a state where production of these kind of tanks that simulate like human life, um, if you get to that point where we can produce these, I do think that some people will opt for that kind of option. Um, I already think like we have all of the ingredients for that kind of reality. Like there's the new like meta glasses, there's the fact that we have the metaverse. I'm not sure how popular it is though. And then we have this new AI technology that's developing at exponentially fast rates. Um, and then there's AR and VR technology as well. So if somebody finds a way to connect all of these things, I do think it's possible. Um, the other movie that comes to mind is Get Ready Player One. And so the world is in a dystopian state in this movie, but everyone's online. So they create their own avatar. They're living in their own reality. So it's a shared reality like the metaverse, but everyone has their own character, coins, that kind of thing. Um, and you do wear these tactile like suits that make them feel the things like the sensations that are happening in the simulation. So I do think that it's very possible that we could be at that kind of future. Um, and I'm not sure how far people are willing to go with it because there's also, you know, there's pushback from the public as well that these developers and governments have to deal um, with what people will allow themselves to go through. But this is where I think like Hollywood, advertising, all that kind of stuff. If there's a financial incentive for these people to push the narrative that these things are beneficial, if sometimes they in fact aren't, I think they'll take the opportunity to do that. And I think in a social media world where people don't really do their own research or fact check things, and just kind of passively consume, um, I think that's very possible that we could be taken advantage of in that kind of way. Or some legislation is passed where this now becomes compulsory or the norm. So, yeah.
Yeah, like there's so many possible outcomes. I know like to like anyone listening, this might sound very far-fetched, but like I had to do some research into this area recently, and like I did find that the all the technologies we would need to basically create something like the Matrix are all coming together and have a timeline of like probably sort of the next 10 to 15 years it would be possible, but it might take a bit longer for the physical infrastructure to roll out to really make it happen. And like I don't know. I see like a possibility for good and bad. I see like a potential that if you if you can have like really good simulated worlds and it replaces like things like the internet and social media, um, all of a sudden we're in like a new world of community and social activities, and you can have like new experiences, like crazy experiences. Um, we could create simulations that preserve parts of history and culture so that like it's not forgotten, because I think we are going to forget everything from the past if we don't keep like those kinds of records. um, and I think like a big problem is like if people are born into a world where like you never have to work, you never have to struggle, then you kind of don't appreciate it. You don't understand how bad it is when you have to go through the way worse stuff. And like in our lifetimes, we've had challenges in our generations, but you know, we haven't seen any like kind of war in our own country or anything like that. We haven't had to go through too much grief. So there's already like this attitude towards sort of our generation of like we're lazy and take things for granted and like that kind of thing. I feel like that's going to go off the scale, like when you have a world where you never have a job, um, and everything is basically handed to you. I think without some struggle, that really like that threatens things like to going in the wrong direction. Like if we just forget the lessons of the past, then that's when it suddenly goes off in the wrong direction. But it depends. If society's run by AI, then maybe maybe there'll be guardrails for that. Um, but yeah, I see huge potential to like stop making stuff and stop transporting it all over the world, like ships carrying containers, like huge polluters, like I see a potential to just end a huge amount of waste that goes on. And like if we start shifting data centers to space, because you can get far more energy up in space. It can always be daytime. You can have solar panels. It's like a challenge to do it, and there's a cost per kilogram of like getting stuff up there. But like people are working to bring that down, and once that happens, there'll be no discussion about like data centers eating the water on Earth and like causing other environmental issues. I think we still always need it for nearby inferencing. Um, there's still like plenty of reasons why we need data centers on Earth, but like a huge amount could be moved to space, and like in a world where AI is doing the heavy lifting and robotics are doing the heavy lifting, like maybe we could rebalance the Earth, the ecosystem, so it's less human centric and a bit more, you know, benefiting all the species and like just living kind of the way we should have been, and taking a leaf out of the book of many indigenous peoples and their view of life on Earth. Um, we've kind of gotten. I'd say this show has been like thrown off course today because we just had so many tech issues that it just like kind of kind of destroyed my brain before we even got started. Is there anything? I think we'll wrap up. But is there anything you've been really excited about at all in like tech? Is there anything you're like hyper fixating on, waiting for at the moment?
Yeah, so I've kind of been keeping up with the hologram space.
Mm.
And being in creative industries, I do know that these new technologies change the entire way films are made. Like I remember the way it used to be, when they would have to like use film cameras and there would be vignettes around the actual film and it was black and white and there was no sound. And now we can generate films with AI with just one prompt. So I think holograms are going to become a big thing. There's a company called Solid Light, I believe in America, and they've found a way to actually create a hologram that like it almost feels real, like you can put your hand through it, like something you would see out of like a sci-fi movie. And there's already been talk about like museums using this kind of technology, like FaceTimes, and I'm just excited for it, like thinking about films as well. instead of having surround sound experience, like you could have a simulated experience where you are actually in the film or living out the film. So it could change a lot of different industries if it's combined with things like AI. And I'm excited for it because there could be lots of new technologies developed around this kind of holographic display. And I'm just thinking about like those 2D, 3D glasses you would wear in the cinemas, and the screen would kind of pop out at you. And now you can kind of be immersed in the experience as well. I think it could make for some pretty cool developments in a range of different creative spaces. And I'm just excited for it. It's very, I think society is going to look way more aesthetic just with these things around.
I feel like we've been racing towards like, yeah, the Star Trek holodeck. That to me, that's where it's going. But like when you watch Star Trek, like there's almost always a problem where like the holograms can hurt you and stuff. So I feel like we're gonna see all that kind of thing play out. Um, but it's crazy. It's a crazy world. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm the most hyped for at the moment. Like, I think it's just gonna get sprung on us. Like, all of a sudden, it's gonna turn out like the US or China has had like AGI for quite some time, and they've just been like positioning so that all the markets don't crash, and there's some way to transition through it. I feel like it's just going to kind of spring on us out of the blue. So I don't even really want to guess where we're going or what's going to happen, but I'm excited for it. I'm more optimistic than pessimistic at this stage. Um, with that, I just want to say thanks, Dan, for today for this extremely amateur first episode of Pawno. We may or may not return one day if it ever works, but thank you for your time.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been very, very ravishing conversation.